The first thing your body quietly takes from you isn't your memory. It isn't even your sharpness of mind. It's your legs. And the cruelest part? By the time you feel it happening, by the time the stairs start to feel steeper and the chair starts to feel lower, you've already been losing something far more precious than strength. You've been losing your independence. So here is the question that almost nobody thinks to ask early enough. What if the weakness creeping into your legs right now isn't simply a product of aging? What if it's actually the result of a mistake you've been making every single day, quietly, unknowingly, for years? If you're genuinely committed to taking better care of your health as you get older, make sure you subscribe. I share simple, practical, science-backed advice designed specifically for people over 60. And before we dive in, go ahead and leave a comment letting me know where in the world you're watching from. I read every single one, and I appreciate each of you more than you know. Now, let's get into it. Why do the legs go first? Wherever you are right now, I need you to stay with me for just a few minutes, because what I'm about to walk you through is something most doctors simply don't bring up. Not because they don't care, but because by the time it becomes relevant in a clinical setting, the damage is already well underway. Here is a question I want you to genuinely sit with for a moment. When the human body begins to break down with age, why is it almost always the legs that go first? Not the heart, not the lungs, not the hands or the eyes, the legs. Think about your own experience. The staircase that used to be effortless now demands your complete attention and both hands on the railing. Getting up from a low couch or a soft chair requires a moment of preparation, a breath, a push, a brief internal negotiation. The long walks you once took without a second thought have grown shorter over the years, then less frequent, then avoided altogether. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a quiet and deeply unsettling fear has taken root. Is this simply how it goes from here? Is this just aging? I want to stop you right there, because that question, honest and understandable as it is built on a completely wrong assumption. Leg weakness is not a verdict. It is a signal, and the vast majority of people never learn to read it correctly. Here is what the science actually tells us. Your legs are the single most metabolically demanding muscle group in the entire human body. They require more oxygen, more nutrients, and more ongoing biological maintenance than almost any other system, every single day, around the clock. And yet, despite all of this, they are the most nutritionally neglected part of aging biology. That is not a coincidence. That is a consequence. My name is Dr. James Cross. I've spent years studying how nutrition shapes physical function in adults over 60. And in that time, I've watched the same heartbreaking pattern repeat itself more times than I can count. People come in convinced that their strength just vanished overnight, like someone flipped a switch while they were sleeping. But here's the truth. Muscle decline in the lower body doesn't begin when you feel it. It begins silently, invisibly, as early as your late 30s, long before you notice a single symptom. And the consequences are serious in ways that go far beyond inconvenience. Research published in the Journal of Cachexia, Sarcopenia, and Muscle confirms that lower limb muscle loss is one of the strongest predictors of lost independence in older adults, ranking higher than heart disease, higher than cognitive decline, higher than almost any other factor studied. Let that sink in. The strength in your legs predicts whether you stay free, and almost no one is protecting it the right way. The 4 hidden systems failing your legs. That's exactly why we're here today. I'm going to walk you through 6 specific foods, ranked from highly effective to genuinely life-changing, that directly target the hidden biological causes quietly dismantling your leg strength from the inside out. But before we get to the foods, I need to spend a few minutes on something even more important, understanding why this happens in the first place. Because most people approach weakening legs entirely the wrong way. They think, I need to move more, I need to push harder, I need to exercise through it. And while movement is absolutely important, that advice completely misses what is happening beneath the surface. Your legs are not weakening because you stopped trying. They're weakening because 4 separate biological systems are failing at the same time, and almost nobody is addressing all 4 simultaneously. Let me break this down. System 1, the muscle signal breakdown. After the age of 40, a process called anabolic resistance begins to set in. This means your muscles gradually stop responding to protein the way they once did. You could be eating adequate amounts of protein every single day, and your body still won't rebuild efficiently. The signal that instructs your muscles to repair and grow becomes weaker, less precise, and less effective with every passing year. Without that signal firing correctly, your legs are receiving raw materials they simply cannot use. The instruction is garbled. The rebuilding never fully begins. System 2. The inflammation problem. Here's a connection most people never make: chronic low-grade inflammation and leg weakness. This kind of inflammation doesn't announce itself dramatically. There's no fever, no obvious swelling, no moment where you think something is wrong. It operates silently beneath the surface, a persistent, slow, biological fire burning through muscle tissue day after day. Research published in Aging Research Reviews confirms that persistent inflammatory activity directly accelerates muscle fiber breakdown in older adults, particularly in the lower body. Think of it like rust forming on a structural beam inside a wall. You don't see it happening. But one morning, you lean against that wall and something gives way. That is precisely what uncontrolled chronic inflammation does to your leg muscles over time. System 3. The circulation collapse. Your muscles need two things constantly: oxygen and nutrients. Both travel through your blood, but as circulation naturally declines with age, the delivery slows. The muscles working hardest to keep you upright and mobile are suddenly running on a reduced, inconsistent supply. It's like a construction crew showing up every morning, ready to work, experienced and willing. But the truck carrying the building materials never arrives. The crew is there, the effort is there, but nothing gets built. Progress is impossible without the supply chain functioning. System 4. The nerve muscle disconnect. This is the most overlooked of the four systems, and in many ways the most important. Movement is not purely physical, it is deeply neurological. Your brain sends carefully coordinated electrical signals down through your nervous system, firing your leg muscles in precise, complex patterns, thousands of times per minute, to keep you upright, balanced, and moving safely through the world. As nerve function declines with age, that communication degrades. The result isn't just weakness, it's instability. It's the hesitation before a step. It's the slight stumble on an uneven surface. It's the unsettling sensation that the ground beneath you is just slightly less trustworthy than it used to be. A study from the Journal of Neurophysiology confirmed that neuromuscular signal degradation contributes significantly to balance and mobility loss in adults over 60. So here is the reality. Your legs are not failing from a single cause. They are failing from four causes, simultaneously, quietly, and for years before you feel the full effect. And most diets address none of them. That is the problem. And now, one food at a time, we are going to solve it. Food number 6. Eggs, reigniting the muscle signal. The first food on this list targets the very first system we identified, the muscle signal breakdown. The moment your body stops correctly interpreting the instruction to rebuild, everything else becomes less effective. You can exercise faithfully, eat carefully, do everything by the book, and still lose ground. So the 6th food on this list targets exactly that. And when I tell you what it is, your first reaction might be, "That's the big answer? Really?" It's eggs. Before you dismiss that, stay with me. Because what eggs actually do inside an aging body is genuinely misunderstood, even by many people who eat them regularly. For decades, eggs were burdened with a reputation problem, cholesterol concerns, cardiovascular warnings, contradictory headlines appearing every other year. And so an entire generation of older adults quietly reduced their egg consumption, limited it, or eliminated it entirely. That decision may have cost them more muscle tissue than they ever realized. Here's what most people don't know about protein and muscle rebuilding. When you consume protein, any protein, your body breaks it down into amino acids and uses those building blocks to repair and reconstruct muscle tissue. But not all proteins trigger the rebuilding process equally. There is one specific amino acid called leucine that functions as the master switch for muscle protein synthesis. Think of leucine as the key that starts the engine. Without it, or without enough of it at once, your body receives the raw materials for muscle repair and simply does almost nothing with them. The engine gets fuel, but never turns over. Eggs are one of the most leucine-dense whole foods available, and they deliver leucine alongside a complete amino acid profile that the body can absorb and utilize with remarkable efficiency. Research published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that leucine-rich meals significantly stimulate muscle protein synthesis in older adults, even in the presence of anabolic resistance. Read that carefully. Even when the signal system is already impaired, leucine helps override that resistance and pushes the rebuilding process to begin anyway. That is not a minor detail. That is the difference between a body that slowly rebuilds overnight while you sleep and one that simply continues to break down further. But there is a layer to this that most people miss entirely. It's not just whether you eat eggs, it's when. Muscle protein synthesis is most responsive in two distinct windows: in the morning, when the body transitions out of its overnight fasting state, and in the hours immediately following physical activity. Eating eggs during these windows doesn't merely feed your muscles. It meets them at the precise moment they are most biologically prepared to respond. Research from Nutrients Journal confirmed that protein timing around physical activity meaningfully improves muscle retention and rebuilding efficiency in older adults. The practical guidance is this: 2 to 3 whole eggs, not just the whites, in the morning or after light movement. Consistently, not occasionally. The yolk matters enormously. The leucine lives there. Don't cut the part that does the work. Food number 5. Salmon. Putting out the fire. Now the signal is firing. Eggs are activating leucine. The rebuilding instruction is going out. But here is a problem that nobody warns you about in time. What if something is actively destroying muscle tissue faster than the signal can rebuild it? Because that is exactly what chronic inflammation does inside millions of aging bodies right now. Silently, continuously, without a single obvious symptom to sound the alarm. And until you slow that destruction, the rebuilding process never wins. Not fully, not permanently. Imagine you're trying to repair a crumbling wall inside your home. You have the tools, you have the materials, you have the instruction. But on the other side of that same wall, something is tearing it down at the exact same rate you're fixing it. You work all day. By morning, you're right back where you started. That is what chronic low-grade inflammation does to your leg muscles every single day. What extinguishes that fire? Salmon. Salmon is one of the richest natural sources of omega-3 fatty acids available, specifically EPA and DHA, two compounds that work directly inside your body's inflammatory pathways. They don't simply reduce inflammation in a vague, general sense. They target the specific molecular signals, particularly a compound called NF-κB, that trigger the chronic, muscle-damaging inflammation so prevalent in aging tissue. A study published in Clinical Interventions in Aging found that consistent omega-3 intake not only reduced inflammatory markers in older adults, it measurably improved muscle function and physical performance at the same time, two powerful outcomes from a single food source. But salmon brings something else to the table that rarely gets mentioned in this context: vitamin D. Most people think of vitamin D purely as a bone health nutrient. And while that's true, emerging research has confirmed that vitamin D receptors exist directly inside muscle tissue, and that adequate vitamin D levels are essential for proper muscle contraction and fiber activation in the lower body. A deficiency, which is extraordinarily common in adults over 60, doesn't just weaken your bones, it weakens the very muscle fibers your legs depend on to hold you upright and keep you steady. 2 to 3 servings of salmon per week delivers meaningful, bioavailable amounts of both omega-3s and vitamin D simultaneously, targeting inflammation and muscle fiber activation in a single meal. The destruction slows. The rebuilding that eggs started now has a genuine fighting chance to take hold. Food number 4. Leafy greens, rebuilding the delivery roads. Let's take stock of where we are. Eggs are firing the signal, telling your muscles to rebuild. Salmon is cooling the inflammation, slowing the destruction happening beneath the surface. But here is a problem that neither of those foods solves on its own. What happens when the delivery system itself breaks down? Because here is a reality of aging biology that almost never makes it into mainstream health conversations. Your muscles can receive the signal to rebuild. The inflammation can be under control, the raw materials can be available, and your legs can still weaken, because the nutrients simply never arrive. It is one of the most quietly devastating biological betrayals of aging, and it happens to millions of people who are genuinely doing everything right. They're eating protein, they're managing their meals carefully, but their circulation has declined to the point where delivery is compromised. And the muscles in their legs, which sit furthest from the heart and demand the highest constant supply of oxygen and nutrients, are running on significantly less than they need every single day. Here's the analogy I want you to hold on to: a fully stocked warehouse, everything your muscles could possibly need, ready to ship. But the roads leading to the destination are crumbling and half collapsed. Half the deliveries never arrive. The other half arrive late. That is aging circulation, and that is precisely what leafy greens, spinach, kale, arugula, Swiss chard, are specifically equipped to fix. Leafy greens are extraordinarily rich in dietary nitrates. These are natural compounds your body converts through a remarkable two-step biological process into something called nitric oxide. And nitric oxide is, without exaggeration, one of the most powerful vascular molecules the human body produces. It signals the smooth muscle lining your blood vessel walls to relax and expand, a process called vasodilation. Wider vessels, improved flow, faster, more efficient delivery of oxygen and nutrients directly to working muscle tissue in the legs. Research published in the Journal of Hypertension confirmed that consistent dietary nitrate intake from leafy greens meaningfully improves vascular function and peripheral blood flow. The circulation that reaches the arms, the legs, the extremities. The roads get rebuilt. The deliveries start arriving on schedule. But there's a second layer to what leafy greens do. And this one genuinely surprised me when I first encountered the research: magnesium. Leafy greens are one of the most reliable dietary sources of magnesium available, and magnesium plays a role in leg strength that almost no one discusses. Here's why it matters. Every single muscle contraction in your body, every step forward, every moment of balance held on an uneven surface, every time you push up from a chair, requires magnesium to complete the electrical exchange that makes that contraction happen in the first place. Without adequate magnesium, muscle contractions become inefficient. Cramping increases, recovery slows, coordination suffers. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that higher magnesium intake was directly associated with greater muscle strength and physical performance in adults over 60, not marginally, directly. So leafy greens are simultaneously rebuilding your circulatory infrastructure and providing the mineral your muscles need to contract with precision and power. Two critical systems addressed by one food group. The practical guidance is simple: 2 to 3 cups of leafy greens daily. Raw in a salad, wilted into scrambled eggs, blended into a morning smoothie. The method matters far less than the consistency. Food number 3. Greek yogurt. Restoring what actually gets through. The signal is firing, inflammation is cooling, the delivery system is opening back up. But here is a question that changes everything. And most people never think to ask it. What if your body is receiving the delivery and still can't properly unpack it? Because that is exactly what happens when the third system fails. And this one lives somewhere that almost no one would intuitively connect to their leg strength: your gut. I know what you might be thinking. My gut? I came here to fix my legs. Stay with me, because this connection is backed by some of the most compelling and rapidly emerging research in aging biology. Once you understand it, you'll never look at your digestive health the same way again. Inside your gut right now lives an extraordinarily vast and complex community of microorganisms, trillions of bacteria, collectively known as your gut microbiome. For decades, scientists understood this system primarily through the lens of digestion, but recent research has uncovered something far more significant. Your gut microbiome directly regulates how efficiently your body absorbs and utilizes the nutrients that build and maintain muscle tissue. This relationship is called the gut-muscle axis, and it is one of the most important biological connections in aging health. Here's what that means in practical terms. You could be eating eggs every morning, salmon twice a week, leafy greens with every meal, faithfully, consistently, doing everything right. And if your gut microbiome is compromised, your muscles may be receiving only a fraction of what you believe you're giving them. The protein your legs desperately need gets only partially processed. The vitamins and minerals, meant to support muscle contraction and repair, never reach full absorption. They pass through largely unused. A study published in Nutrients Journal found a direct association between gut microbiome diversity and both muscle mass and physical performance in older adults, confirming that the health of your gut is not a separate conversation from the strength of your legs. They are the same conversation. This is where Greek yogurt becomes one of the most quietly powerful foods on this entire list. Greek yogurt delivers two things your gut-muscle axis desperately needs. First, probiotics. Live, beneficial bacteria that replenish and diversify your gut microbiome, restoring the absorption efficiency that aging and years of inconsistent diet have gradually stripped away. Second, high-quality bioavailable protein. A single serving of full-fat Greek yogurt contains between 15 and 20 grams of protein in a form that a well-functioning gut can absorb with remarkable efficiency. Research from the Journal of Nutrition confirmed that probiotic supplementation meaningfully improved protein absorption and muscle protein synthesis markers in older adults. Better gut, better absorption, better muscle response. The chain completes itself. 1 cup of full-fat Greek yogurt daily, morning or afternoon, is sufficient to begin shifting that system in the right direction, consistently, not occasionally. Food number 2, beets. Sharpening the signal from the top down. Your gut is now working with you instead of against you. Absorption is restored. The nutrients your legs need are actually getting through. But here is something we haven't addressed yet, something that separates people who merely survive physical aging from those who genuinely thrive through it. The conversation between your brain and your legs. Here is what most people don't fully appreciate. Leg strength is not purely a muscle story. Every step you take, every moment of balance you hold, every time you rise from a chair or navigate an uneven curb, that is your brain and your legs engaged in continuous, real-time communication. Thousands of precise electrical signals firing down through your nervous system every single second, telling your muscles exactly when to contract, how hard to engage, and precisely when to release. When that communication degrades, you don't just feel physically weak, you feel uncertain, unsteady, like the ground beneath you is somehow slightly less trustworthy than it once was. That subtle hesitation, that half-second delay before you fully commit to a step, is not simply muscle failure. It is a communication failure, and it is far more common in adults over 60 than most people realize. This is precisely what the second most powerful food on this list directly targets. Beets. Beets are not a food most people associate with strength, coordination, or neurological performance, but the research behind what beets do inside an aging body is genuinely remarkable, and it goes far deeper than most nutrition content ever explores. Beets contain the highest natural concentration of dietary nitrates of almost any whole food available, far more concentrated even than the leafy greens we discussed earlier. And while those nitrates improve blood flow to working muscles, in beets the effect extends somewhere even more critical: the brain itself. A landmark study published in the Journals of Gerontology found that dietary nitrate supplementation from beet sources specifically increased blood flow to the frontal cortex, the region of the brain most directly responsible for motor control, movement planning, and physical coordination in older adults. Read that again carefully. Beets don't just feed your legs, they sharpen and accelerate the system that controls them. The brain-to-muscle signal becomes clearer, faster, more precise. The hesitation on the stairs begins to ease, not merely because the muscles are stronger, but because the instructions reaching those muscles are more accurate than they were before. But beets deliver one more benefit that compounds everything else on this list. They dramatically improve oxygen efficiency during physical activity, meaning your legs can work harder and longer before fatigue sets in. Research from the Journal of Applied Physiology confirmed that dietary nitrates from beets reduce the oxygen cost of physical activity, effectively making movement more efficient at the cellular level. Less effort, more output, greater endurance when it matters most. One medium beet, roasted and eaten as a side, or juiced and consumed as a drink, 3 to 4 times per week is enough to begin shifting both circulation and neurological performance in a meaningful direction. Food number 1, extra virgin olive oil, the master switch for rebuilding. We've arrived at number 1, and before I reveal it, I want you to notice something important. Every food on this list addressed a specific broken system: eggs for the signal, salmon for the inflammation, leafy greens for the delivery, Greek yogurt for the absorption, beets for the brain-to-muscle communication, each one essential, each one targeted. But number one is different. Number one doesn't just address a single system, it reactivates the entire biological framework that makes rebuilding possible in the first place. It changes the internal environment of your body, shifting it from one that is losing ground to one that is actively, deliberately reclaiming it. And when I tell you what it is, I expect you'll feel a moment of surprise, possibly even skepticism, because this is a food that a significant portion of people over 60 have been quietly avoiding for years, warned away from it by outdated nutritional advice that may have cost them a decade of preventable muscle loss. Extra virgin olive oil. Yes, oil. Not an exotic superfood powder, not an expensive pharmaceutical supplement, not something requiring a specialist or a prescription, something sitting on the shelf of virtually every grocery store on the planet for a few dollars. Here is why it earns the number one position without question. Extra virgin olive oil contains a remarkable compound called oleocanthal, a naturally occurring polyphenol with anti-inflammatory properties so potent that research published in the Annals of the New York Academy of Sciences compared its biological mechanism to that of ibuprofen. Without the side effects, without the pharmaceutical cost. A natural, food-based inflammatory response built into every single tablespoon. But that is not why it sits at number one. Here is why. Extra virgin olive oil activates a cellular pathway called mTOR, the mechanistic target of rapamycin. And mTOR is not just any biological pathway. It is the master regulator of muscle protein synthesis in the human body. It is the switch that determines whether your body exists in a state of progressive breakdown or in a state of active, deliberate rebuilding. Research published in Clinical Nutrition found that diets consistently rich in olive oil were directly associated with significantly lower rates of sarcopenia, age-related muscle loss, and measurably better physical performance in older adults. But the layer beneath that finding is what matters most. Olive oil doesn't simply slow the loss. It activates the biological environment in which genuine growth becomes possible again. It shifts the entire system. 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil daily, drizzled generously over vegetables, mixed into Greek yogurt, used as the base for cooking salmon, is sufficient to begin shifting your body from a breakdown state into a rebuilding state, every day, consistently. The truth about how you lost it, and how you get it back, here is what I want to leave you with, and I want you to really hear this. You did not lose your leg strength in a single dramatic moment. It didn't happen overnight, even if it felt that way. It left quietly, meal by meal, year by year, through what was consistently missing from your plate and from your body's internal systems, which means it can come back the exact same way. Not through one dramatic change, not through an extreme program or an expensive intervention. Through 6 deliberate, consistent choices, repeated across days, weeks, and months, until the systems that were quietly starving finally have everything they need to begin the work of rebuilding. Let me quickly summarize the full picture. Eggs, activate leucine, override anabolic resistance, and fire the muscle rebuilding signal in the morning when your body is most ready to respond. Salmon, deliver omega-3 fatty acids and vitamin D to suppress chronic inflammation and protect muscle fibers from ongoing destruction. Leafy greens, flood your bloodstream with dietary nitrates to improve circulation and deliver the magnesium your muscles need to contract with precision and power. Greek yogurt, restore your gut microbiome and dramatically improve your body's ability to actually absorb and use all the nutrients you're working so hard to consume. Beets, increase blood flow to the frontal cortex, sharpen the brain-to-muscle communication signal, and reduce the oxygen cost of movement so your legs can do more before they fatigue. Extra virgin olive oil, activate mTOR, suppress deep inflammatory activity, and shift your entire biological environment from a state of breakdown into a state of intentional, sustained rebuilding. 6 systems, 6 foods, 1 coherent, evidence-based strategy, not for slowing decline, but for reversing it. Your legs have carried you everywhere. Every step of your entire life, they have held you upright, moved you forward, and kept you free to live on your own terms. They are absolutely worth fighting for. And now, for the first time, you know exactly how. Thank you for watching all the way through. Staying informed and staying curious is one of the most powerful things you can do for your long-term health. If this was valuable to you, please subscribe and tap the next video on your screen. There is a great deal more where this came from. And before you go, leave a comment below. Rate this video from 1 to 10. Tell me where you're watching from. Your feedback helps me continue creating the kind of guidance that actually makes a difference in people's lives. And I read every single comment. Take care of those legs. They've earned it.